Do you drink mushroom coffee?
I've never had it.
I love it.
I mean, I would be more than happy to try some. You just never know what you're going to get into.
I'll try anything.
I tried the...
Maybe that'll be the solution to all your problems.
Oh, that'd be badass. I tried the Goli mushroom energy bites. Those are kind of good. Those actually work. I feel.
Yeah, it's the same concept.
Maybe I should have taken one. But
okay, so you were saying
yep.
that you entered a depressive. You don't call it depression. You call it depressive.
It's a depressive episode.
Depressive episode. Okay.
So for me, depression again. There's like I purely feel that there is depressive episodes. Obviously, with bipolar, that's something that I deal with. I feel that when there is sadness, that can lead to depression, like losing someone close to you or anything of that nature. That sadness can turn into
a
depression. If you are not bipolar, it's not necessarily a depressive episode, it's depression. So the reason being, because sometimes the depression of, let's say, grief goes in waves of different feelings. Anger, sadness.
And it's pretty predictable as far as grief.
And then it kind of comes back, and then you could be good, and then it comes back, and it does its wave.
And the waves get further and further apart as time passes.
And there is feelings of depression when you're burnt out. And you're tired, you're becoming hopeless because you feel like you can't keep going because you're burnt out. So I feel that then you start kind of dealing with sadness and depression because even if you think of it in terms of weather, there is sad, so seasonal depression. That is depression. When you have fatigue, you're down, hopelessness, those types of things is what makes it, depression instead of sadness. So
in a depressive state, you are in depression.
Yes.
You're experiencing depression
symptoms. So
is there something different about being in the depressive state when you're bipolar versus just being depressed when you are sad, grieving?
I feel that differentiates when a depressive episode will last for 2-3 months solid, or a solid month.
Every day, all day?
Every day, all day. There could be a break. Like last week, I felt like I had 2 decent days. I was up. I felt good mentally. What I call squishy brain is when I feel like my brain is Play-Doh and it's just got a rock on top of it and it's just smushed. I call it squishy brain. And it's just this gunk, and it feels just like I'm in year 2 of depression. And when I say year 2 is because when I struggled for 3 years, when I was on those ups and downs of medications, 3 years of depression that I went through of hell. When I have a couple decent days where I have showered and I've done something productive, and then the next day could be feeling like I'm in year 2 of depression, of complete hopelessness. Oh shit, am I going to have to go to the hospital? I really don't want to have to go to the hospital. What's my care plan? Remind myself that my care plan is to not go to the hospital. Where is my safe place now that I am in a relationship? Where, like those types of thoughts.
So what, you say smushy brain. And I kind of, I don't relate. But I know, like, that visual in my head tells me I know that feeling.
It's heavy.
Like, I've had it before where you just can't muster up the courage to even get up and do anything because nothing is even...
Sounds good. It's like when you're trying to find something to eat. What sounds good? Or even the radio, when I'm depressed, what sounds good? What sounds good? None of this music sounds good to me. There's nothing that clicks. There's nothing that lifts me up.
Do you also feel sad, hopeless?
Yes.
Like, have you ever felt suicidal?
Yes. I haven't had heavy suicidal thoughts in many years.
This is a topic that's probably way too personal to even talk about, but
Nothing's
that is beyond. I think I think that none of us that have not had anything close to suicidal thoughts, because I've been deep, dark, sad when I went through the divorce and when I was by myself with my girls, but never once did I think to myself, this world would be better without me. That's when I don't understand, and I don't relate. Somehow I understand or I empathize, but can you describe that?
So I think in terms of, and again, this is speaking of someone who was bipolar, being diagnosed when I was 19 years old, and knowing that my family has not only seen me pre-diagnosed, but obviously after being diagnosed, hardships of seeing, constant medication changes to find the right medicine, constant doctor visits, coming over just to do my dishes because I couldn't even get off my couch, taking my dog out for a walk because I didn't want to go outside. All these heavy things, or even light things, it feels like a burden. I am a burden. I have now taken up your time. I know you love me and you would do anything for me, but I have now consumed your life as well with my heavy brain, that I have consumed part of you, and you have to watch someone go through ailments of heavy stuff. So in the mindset is, coming from small town Bluffton, pray about it. Keep your head up, what's my favorite? Just think happy thoughts. Just think happy thoughts, okay? I think of Frank Sinatra, and I think of him dancing and tap dancing. Oh, I love Lucy, she's funny. All right, I got nothing.
Yeah.
But when it comes to then, when I was having the suicidal thoughts, they would be better off without the burden of me having to take care of me, having to worry about me, having to worry if, XYZ it was so heavy for me that I can't imagine watching my own child go through that. And that's again why I had the tubal ligation, because I couldn't imagine handing a platter of mental health issues to a child that I myself am not good most days. And would they have that 85% chance, come to find out, they would be bipolar or a strand of some kind of mental illness, because it's so prevalent in my family. And I was like, I can't do that, because if I can't take care of myself, how can I take care of a baby?
So you're in a depressive state right now.
Yes.
Do you ease out of it, or one day do you just, is that a stupid question?
No,
you just wake
not
up and you're
question.
like, whoa, I feel great.
Pretty much. Sometimes it's like that. It's just like it never even happened. It's bizarre. It's like I could wake up and feel manic, for crying out loud, and be like, oh, I was never even depressed. Everything is fine. And there are parts of me that, my aunt, for instance, said, how are you? You seem to be doing well based off your Facebook. Good deal. It's working well in my favor, right?
Yeah.
I posted, this is what depression is, because it's Mental Health Awareness Month, but this was, 3-4 weeks ago. And I said, well, it's working then, because social media is social media, and you can do what you want. Not that I'm trying to dictate games. It's more of a validation thing. Or, hey, I can be this person when I am functioning. But something that stood out that my therapist had said, I've been with her 5, probably going on 6 years now. And she said, you're doing so well living through the process of depression. Depression is not consuming you like it was. So to be completely transparent, this morning, well, up until this afternoon, I was like, text my friend, I said, fine, I'm going to shower. Fine. All we did was talk about showering. So I texted her, I was like, fine, I'll shower. And she's like, okay, fine. So I shower, and I was putting stickers on my markers for Monarch, and you text me, "Oh, I see you at 2:30." I'm like, "Oh, 2:30. Yep, I'll be there." So I'm glad you texted me, and it was a godsend that I showered, but I felt like all that I had in me just to brush my hair, get in the shower, put on like a base, just to feel like a human.
Once the motion has started, do you feel better? Or
sometimes.
Okay.
I would say today, obviously, when I have something to look forward to, the attitude changes. When I have basically that, when I have something to look forward to, and that's why Monarch has honestly been my drive. That's what's keeping me going.
Yeah.
Because it has a purpose. And right now, I feel I have lost my purpose.
It's a creative outlet. Yes. It has a purpose. And I read in a book that said when you shine the light on other people, when you don't shine the light on yourself and you shine the light on other people, you're actually getting so much more fulfillment in life. And so instead of saying I have this, you're like literally creating tools for shining the light on other people and helping them. And with me, that's the same thing I'm doing with Simple Daily Journaling.
Yes.
And it's like I try to tell my husband, like, there's just purpose there. It's an unspoken, I don't know what it is, and I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
But it's purpose. It's so much purpose that I want to continue doing it.
Yes.
And making sure that it doesn't go away. But that's the depression stuff is so interesting to me. How it's because it's not just like, oh yeah, I'm sad. Oh, like people say it's really depressing. I'm depressed about that, or I'm depressed today. And I get it, we can be depressed, but it's used, the word itself is used in such
just passive
language.
Passing language.
Oh, that's depressing.
Or I have anxiety.
Yeah.
You know, everyone has general anxiety. But what that breaks down to, and this is probably the best way to explain the depression versus depressive, again, for the prolonged periods of time, now that's going up on a month, whereas someone maybe just be down for a week because, again, they're burnout. They are depressed. But depressive episodes, same thing with general anxiety. Everybody has general anxiety. It's like, But if I am prone to having bad anxiety in the car when someone else is driving, because I have now lost control of my environment, and that stresses me out for, let's say, a 3-hour car ride. Whereas someone who maybe get anxious that they are not in control, but they can still sit there and enjoy themselves, or make the most of it, or traffic. Someone who, again, maybe has trouble driving, that could ruin their day. That could just set them in either at a frenzy because someone had road rage, or maybe it just created anxiousness or anxiety because they were stuck in traffic, or they were already triggered by something. But that anxiety will prolong itself. Whereas someone who's just anxious because they're late, that feeling passes quicker. It has
a starting and a stopping point. And what you're on is this train to nowhere where you don't know when it's going to start and stop, and you're just on the ride.
Yeah. And with Facebook memories, when they pop up,
oh man,
it's kind of interesting because every spring I have been dealing with a heavy depressive episode.
Do you see the picture that you posted on Facebook and know immediately? Oh, I know how I felt when I took that picture.
The one time, it was probably about 5 years ago now, I actually held the Warrior Boutique project, and that was I raised money for NAMI. Part of the proceeds went to NAMI.
Okay,
now, mind you, NAMI is the National Alliance for Mental Illness. I'm saying it all wrong, but they're kind of like Mental Health America. You can go there. They've got group classes, group sessions, aids to help you get jobs, things of that nature if you struggle with mental illness. So I created, at my dad's rental property, I put up tables. Basically, it was this upscale garage sale. People donated things. XKE donated concert tickets, gift cards from local restaurants, things of that nature. And I raised money, gave part of the proceeds to NAMI, kept some because I was unable to work during that time. I think it was the week after that, I went to the hospital. I was dealing with a depressive episode.
So what took you to the hospital?
The depression. So I was in a depressive episode when that boutique was being prepped. How I did it, I don't know. I think I was in a hypomanic state, so I was dealing with depression but had manic tendencies. And it was a project.
And then
it kept me going.
What the hospital then? For people like me, it's like, how does depression get you to the hospital?
Because you start having suicidal thoughts, you start to feel unsafe.
And you need to be under the care of someone watching you. Do they give you medication then?
Yes.
Okay.
They typically drug you with trazodone. Trazodone is a sleeping aid, but typically when you go in there, at least from my experience, that's the first medication they'll put you on is trazodone.
Tranquilizer.
It pretty much is. And then they'll wake you up at 6 or 7 a.m. and say, all right, morning meds. And then you either take what medication you were on, or maybe they've now shifted your regimen because you're in the hospital under the care of another provider, and maybe your old regimen wasn't working. So they would be like, okay, here's your meds. And I hate saying that word. Here are your meds. Okay, they're playing Skippo in the group room. I'm like, well, I'm going back to bed. This was day one of waking up there. And they're like, well, if you don't participate in group activities, it looks like you're not trying. And I'm like, fine. So I went and played Skippo. I will never play Skippo again in my lifetime. And I want to say that if anyone does not have a tribe, a safety plan, a safe place to go, by all means, go to the hospital. But for me personally, I will never go to a hospital again. It was more disruptive than helpful. Literally, you played Skippo for your activity. We had group therapy, and I want to know, I still want to do my mad research on who created group therapy, because it's the dumbest bleeping, bleep, 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 bleeping concept ever.
For mental health.
For mental health. Second time I experienced a larger group, but everyone is on a different path in life in general.
Yeah.
So when you have mental health disturbances and everybody's on their own path, especially being in a hospital, let's say I'm on day 5. I was on day 4, I think, of being in the hospital. I started to feel better. But Jackie next to me is losing her marbles and wants to do something hurtful to herself and is expressing how down she is, how terrible it is, where she's at. And it's like, okay, I'll take my score back to a 2.
Yeah.
And then someone tried to literally harm themselves in the group session with a big pen.
Oh.
To this day, if I see a big pen, I think of that guy spacing out and losing his marbles. And the poor girl next to me steps out and she goes, I am not okay. And here I'm like trying to protect her, like, you know, I'm so sorry that happened, which is not even my judgment call to make. But to experience that, again, my care plan is I have trazodone on hand, I have lithium on hand, and I have a safe place. If that's what they're going to do in the hospital, I'm going to do it in my safe environment. With my dog, wherever my bed is, I'm going to tell myself you're taking days of rest to regroup and see if this helps you. But that's where, if you feel unsafe, if you feel that maybe your provider's not reaching your goals of getting the medication on lockdown, you may need to kick it up a notch and go in there and have a direct medication change at a higher dosage of some kind.
So, like, this is just such a spontaneous conversation, but I mean, I've learned so much. I'm so glad we recorded it. How do you get yourself, what do you do for yourself? Is there something that you can do for yourself to improve the way you feel, or do you just have to ride it out? Are there things that you could say, like, hey, these are 3 things that even if you can't even pull yourself to doing them, if you could pull yourself to doing them, what would help? I
would say when I took a break, just the other day, I was painting. I was working on my second David Bowie piece for the Bowie exhibition at Studio 7. He temporarily looks like Spider-Man right now. That's fine.
It'll be okay.
They're actually in my car. You don't have to see them. But doing that, I have to tell myself what my art teacher told me a long, long time ago. And I think we talked about this, but done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
And she embedded that in my head. Done is better than perfect. And she is a monumental influence in my life, in my creative mind. She is a staple of that. And so I get frustrated with myself because I completed my self-portrait, however big this is, in about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And the only reason I know that is because it was one of my first pieces that I did collage. So I kept taking snippets, progress pics to send to my family. And then I went back like a year later and I was like, oh, I have these. And I was like, oh my, it took me an hour and a half to paint this big collage, detailed painting, self-portrait. And then it took me 2 hours to just cut out lightning bolts from felt, adhere them on the canvas, and keep painting 2 hours. And I'm like, I'm not even done with this. And it gets frustrating because it's like, well, I know what I can do.
That has to be for the Bowie piece, the lightning bolts? Okay, I see. Not your self-portrait.
No, not the self-portrait. Not yet anyways. But yeah, it gets frustrating.
Just like in your head you say, done is better than perfect.
Yes.
We say that all the time. I say that all the time. I say that all the time to my group.
I think it's very important because, again, I get frustrated. Oh, I'm not manic. I can't create. And one thing that stuck in my head from someone who is now out of my life, but he said, why don't you create when you're not manic? Like, why can't you create when you're not manic? And I was like, oh, that's a valid point. I was like, yeah, I can do that. But then when I do, it's frustrating because I know I can do it faster when I'm manic. So I have to give myself grace and just work at what I can, accept it for whatever it is, and done is better than perfect. And if that done means just being done for that day and revisit it the next day.
Well, that's a really good point because done doesn't mean
forever.
It just means stepping away. And then maybe coming back. You could come back to it at any time.
I'm done today. I'll be back tomorrow because right now he looks like Spider-Man.
Or maybe,
he needs some stripes on his pants. I've incorporated 2 different staple outfits from Bowie. So, yeah.
Is it still recording? Yeah, it is. Okay, so done is better than perfect. And then, is there anything else? Like, do you force yourself to shower? Do you force yourself to see people and, like, be in society?
Yes. So, again, referring back to the therapist, her saying you're not letting depression consume you. You're living through it. Working through it. And that means, again, taking that dreaded shower.
Why is
drying
the shower
my
so
hair
dreaded?
Because this is going to sound crazy, and this is just me talking out loud, so I'm connecting the dots for myself maybe for the first time. But it's the concept that in the past it was always, again, with that bad depression, take a shower, you'll feel better. You know, when you're sick, take a shower, you'll feel better. It's refreshing. We usually always, like, after a dirty day, you've been in the mud, you take a shower, it's refreshing. So everyone's take a shower. So it's like, all right, I'm going to take a shower and I'm going to feel better. So I set the expectation in my head that, okay, if I shower, I'm going to feel better. Well, then I realized I wasn't feeling any better.
You just want to shower and then go crawl in bed with a towel on your head.
Exactly. So it was like, okay, well, now I feel like I've done something challenging that kicked my butt and now I don't feel better. So what was the purpose of showering? Obviously for personal hygiene. But in my head, it's just like a huge step. I don't know why. It's a huge thing when you go to the doctor and you're filling out your charts. It's like, are you able to get out of bed? Are you able to get off the couch? How's your hygiene? Because hygiene's seriously, like, number one when dealing with depression. You start losing. When my sister was telling me, I said, are you struggling with depression? She goes, well, I'm not sad, and I'm not crying. I said, but you're not showering, you're not doing things you used to do.
That's so interesting.
You're not doing whatever it was.
Because that's so interesting, because that's what we think depression is.
I don't cry.
Sitting on the couch and crying.
I can't cry. I wanted to cry so bad on Saturday evening. I said, well, obviously the new antidepressant's working because I have feelings that I cannot express, at all. And I want to cry and show that emotion. I was like, I want to just have a tantrum. I said, but I can't, and I'm just mad and I'm going to leave. But I couldn't cry. I could not cry to just release what I was feeling. But I'll cry when I watch Sweet November.
Because of the medication, though?
Yeah.
But if you didn't take the medication, you could?
Oh, yeah. More than likely.
Don't you think?
It's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword.
I always told my girls when they were younger, crying is as natural as the river. Just let it out and let it flow, because that's therapeutic healing in and of itself. And so
to release the internal pain.
You're living in a double-edged sword right now. And how long have you been dealing with this? Your whole life, basically.
The psychiatric ward. Yes. What did I say to the patient advocacy the other day? I said, I have been in the pharmaceutical, I forget what I called it, but I've been in the pharmaceutical ward or business, I think is what I said, since I was 19 years old. I said, I can read a chart. Anyone who came in here with bipolar, I could read their chart. Anyone who was dealing with depression, more than likely could read their chart. I've done this a lot. I have a lot more experience than some guy telling me, you need to do X, Y, Z. It's like, are you my provider? That's a whole different story. But
I wonder, I watched a YouTube video once where there was this guy that insisted that every day if you wake up and you make your bed, by making your bed, you've completed a task.
100%.
So I wonder if that's and it starts your day off.
Yes.
So I wonder if that shower or whatever it might be, just even doing do you ever do meditation or any routine like that?
Probably should. Probably should. More than likely, it's getting up, making the bed, because it's a small task. Yeah. Before I started using Structured, which is an amazing app, I would use my Google Notes, and I would literally put make bed, brush teeth,
because you're
do this.
Ticking it off.
Yes, and if for some reason those 5 things on the list that I said I'm only doing these 5 things today, and if this is what I accomplished, I've done a great job. But then I would get on an ADD tangent. I'd start doing something else. So then I'd come back to the phone and put it on the list, just to feel that I checked it off. Yeah. So again, it is the mindset. But trying to get there, and I kept waking up, going back to sleep, waking up, going back to sleep. That was just this morning. It was get up. I had to take my pre-workout to get up to make my bed, to take a shower. So the pre-workout's mostly
on the manic
natural
days, you're like, woo! I'm gonna make my bed, and I'm gonna sweep, and I'm gonna
because I always thought that Mania just was staying up till 4 a.m. But in reality, for me, is taking my medication still on the same time regimen-wise, but then I'll start waking up at 5 a.m. jolly on the spot with some song playing in my head like the radio was on, and I'm like, I'm ready to do hot girl shit today. What are we doing? And I'm clean. I'll start creating art. I'll just start wanting to do everything.
In a balance of a year, what percentage do you think that you are, and is it regular or is it very unpredictable? What percentage do you think that you're manic versus depressive?
Typically, bipolar 1, you deal with more mania.
Okay.
More manic symptoms.
And you're bipolar 1?
I am bipolar 1.
Okay.
Bipolar 2, you deal more with the depressive episodes, but you never really reach a full mania. You'll have hypomania. Okay. So manic tendencies, but you don't go full-blown manic. So honestly, from October, I was trying to figure this out, from about October.
Yeah, because when we met, you were manic.
I was very manic. And that was in November.
Okay.
So from October to about January, I was manic.
Okay.
And then I started to trickle down, but again, not paying attention, hardly. Usually I'm pretty quick, and I can just change the regimen within. This time, for the first time in 4 years, I had to get on a new medication. So that's where it gets scary. Is this going to work? Am I going to wean off Zoloft and get on Trintellix, wait for Trintellix to kick in, or do I just sit and wait patiently for my brain to kind of regulate and stay on Zoloft? And it gets scary because then you start weaning off the Zoloft. Now you don't really have a full antidepressant in your system. And typically with bipolar 1, you're not supposed to be on SSRIs, which is Zoloft and Trintellix, because it usually sparks mania. So it's, again, the double-edged sword of what can I do to help balance my brain. And you have to think, how long ago was that? When I was 19, Bluffton, Indiana, there was no CBD around. There really weren't any alternatives. I was not in a good place. Was referred from my pediatrician to go to Father Wellness Clinic. And that's when all the guinea pig trial and error started, which I understand to a degree, because you got to find something that works for that individual. But then as it progressed and how terrible it became, it was a godsend that I had to leave there and go to a different provider. Because even though it was so bad, I kept having so much hope and faith that, okay, the next medication is going to be the one. The next medication is going to be the one. That I stayed there because it was almost scarier to find another provider, even though the provider I had was not listening to me, was not advocating for me, was ruining my life. And that again is a whole, different story. But once things, again, for 4 or 5 years, since getting on 50 milligrams of Zoloft after those 45 plus trial and error drugs that they had me on for a span of 2-ish years, maybe, I said, Zoloft, 50 milligrams, you pulled the wrong medication. My gut feeling, it needs to be Lamictal, a mood stabilizer, Abilify, an antipsychotic, and 50 milligrams of Zoloft. I had been stable for 5 years, which I would still say I am stable because the episodes are more manageable.
Do you have times where you feel that you're not either?
Yes. Yes.
I don't want to say normal because that's stable. Okay, I was looking for a word.
Sometimes I say
sober.
Sometimes I say sober because I'm not sick anymore. But stable, yes. Everyone's episodes fluctuate differently. As far as percentage, again, coming back to the bipolar 1, I would say definitely more mania than depression because, again, that bipolar 1 having more ups than downs.
What is going on in your brain
during mania?
During mania.
I can do everything. What do you need help with? What do you need help with? What do you need help with? You want me to do that? I can do that. A lot of people think...
what's firing up there? Do you know what's happening? Do you know do you understand the brain...
had shifted?
What in the world are your synapses just...
I don't know,
firing
man. I would love
directions?
to see a brain scan of my brain sometime when I'm manic versus depression.
I know a guy that knows a lot about the brain. I would love to talk to him and hear from him if what is happening because is it hormones? Is it what in the world? I guess it's probably a combo of a lot of different things.
Yes. More dopamine spikes.
Okay, so... more
serotonin spikes. The weather, same thing as seasonal depression. Once I'll start shifting manic usually in the summer because when you start getting more vitamin
tap
D...
in there when you're manic.
Oh, you'll hear from me. You'll hear from me. Just like I hit you up that April and I'm just like, here are videos of me. And you're like, who the fuck is this person? It's me. What were they saying?
The seasonal affective disorder.
Having more sunlight, you typically go manic because of the serotonin factor. I have to stop taking vitamin D. Cannot use my therapy light. Even if I use my therapy light, most people are 10 to 15 minutes. It even says on there, if you typed in question and you put bipolar, it says 2 to 5 minutes.
Oh my God.
It's sensitivity that sparks the brain. And one of the guys I actually follow on TikTok was actually just talking about this with it. Springtime is when people typically go manic because, again, the sunlight.
The sun comes out.
Yes.
And plus, I imagine the energy, you're just like all of us, we get more energy. Yes.
Hopefulness. It's going to bloom. That plant's going to bloom in 2 weeks. April showers bring May flowers.
Yeah.
We're hopeful.
The summer, the sun comes out, we can swim, we can party, we
all
can whatever,
the exciting
all the
things, yes.
Oh, that's so wild.
So amplify that by about 10.
Oh my God.
And a lot of people with the stigma, and again, this is coming from someone who, and again, I can't speak for someone who's untreated bipolar.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's like. And by untreated, I mean whether it's supplements, whether it's not having a care provider or taking prescription medication. Okay. Someone who is just living life with bipolar, as opposed to myself who is treated. But mania, to me, is being overly helpful. I want to help whoever I can, however I can. I created hygiene kits for the homeless. Started handing them out to people in Fort Wayne, Indiana, who were walking in the winter with a backpack, because I'm assuming they're homeless, they have a backpack and they're on the street, going up and talking to these people. Here's a hygiene kit. Have a nice day. What's your story, David? Here's a hygiene kit. And people assume that I'm going to be out here waving a gun around, going to rob a bank and grab some burgers afterward, like it's Pulp Fiction, and oh my God, bipolar is terrible.
Well,
but again, there's the beauty in all things.
I want, like, when you describe manic, I can't imagine that there are some people that maybe even if we share this video, that watch this video, that say, oh, I wish I had a little bit of that. You 100%. Know what I mean? Because
and
it's kind of like, whew, that sounds
fair.
Kind of...
It's completely fair, because that is one of the double-edged swords. When I am manic, I don't want it to leave. Mm-hmm. I can create art so much faster. I can crank it out. Mm-hmm. I am very productive. I don't care if I get 3 hours sleep. I would rather only sleep for 3 hours and be up all day, or maybe not sleep all day, because I feel amazing. The euphoria, I can do it all. I can help everybody. I'll go thrifting, and I'm like, this is for Angie. This is for Alma. Somebody needs this.
So
how can I help? And it's just.
Would you live a life manic? Totally. If you didn't have any other choice, like if someone said to you, tomorrow you can decide if you want to live a stable or a manic life.
I would say stable. Even though mania feels good, it still has its ugly side. Mm-hmm.
What's its ugly side?
Ugly side for me is...
It sounds like a little bit of like lack of control.
Very much. You're very impulsive. And again, it's not that it's happening for 2 days. This is on months stretch. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are misdiagnosed with ADD when maybe they should be bipolar or vice versa, because of the impulsivity and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. So it makes a big difference though when people are explaining ADD and they're like, well, I'm bipolar. It's like, yeah, but did you go on for like a month stretch of your bender of doing consecutive things at a high rate, 3 hours of sleep, gotta get up, gotta get this done.
Well, and the other thing, it can't be good for your health.
No. So
if you sacrifice your sleep, your eating habits.
The ugly side of mania is flex every muscle in your body and walk around like that for like a month. And you just want to run. I was a runner, can't release that. Mm-hmm. Running was always that outlet for me, didn't realize it. The intrusive thoughts are horrible. Of just, if something has triggered you, repetition, that thought just on and on and on and on and on. And just the irritability.
Okay. Well, probably too, because you're lacking sleep.
And control. Every time I have an episode that can mostly stay that way with the harsher side effects or symptoms, I feel like I've aged like 4 years.
Huh.
I feel like it has beat the crap out of my body. And the last episode that was like that was about 2 years ago now. And I was manic from May to about September.
Oh my gosh.
It was right after my tubal ligation. It was relationship based because of this guy that I had met. And was over the top with everything that I did. But then if something happened, again, out of control, just constant intrusive thoughts. Paranoia comes out with mania. Paranoia can also come out with depression, but for me, paranoia comes out pretty bad during mania if it's showing its ugly side. I'll lock my car more than I've ever locked my car. I start getting worried.
Is it similar to OCD? Like, do you have OCD tendencies with mania?
I have OCD as one of my diagnoses.
Okay.
But yes. But
it triggers a higher level of that with mania.
Yes.
I mean, it sounds like you're just in overdrive. You're just
with
totally
lack of control.
Yeah,
there's
with
no
guardrails, you are flying down the road at 120 miles an hour, and you do not give a shit where you go. You're just going.
I'm on a mission. Someone's like, you're in a hurry. I'm like, no, I am on a mission from God. I'm going to do something.
But the funny thing is, when I asked you, would you do mania or stability, there was a hesitation.
Oh,
so
for
the
sure.
euphoria must balance it in some regard.
It does.
Because you did.
I know I hesitated because I had to flash through it.
Mm-hmm.
I had to, when I think of mania, I think of, again, the good things.
Yeah.
I'm overly optimistic, so I'm thinking of all of the good things that come with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I got all this stuff done. I can do this, 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 and this. I can balance 5 things. But then I have to pause and think, okay, but you could slam into depression.
You know what's...
You could be in the worst irritable body flex. You could feel like you've aged 5 years over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
And I just, there is literally a life shortage. There's a life expectancy shortage, about 20 years. Now, whether or not that's because when you think of daily stress for, let's say, a normal person, it fades, or they get like, an ulcer or hernia from stress, physical symptoms of what it does to your body, your heart attacks. So you think of adding bipolar, you're amplifying those chances higher because of the intensity of the stress and things that we feel. And also medications. I'm killing my liver every day, and I know that. But I can't think about that because if I did and thought, oh no, I've got weight gain from Zoloft. Okay, well, that sucks.
That's not going to help anything, right?
I would rather feel stable and functional on a day-to-day basis than have to worry that every day I'm shortening my lifespan like a dog 5 years a week or whatever, you know? And it's just a matter of keep going because you got to deal with what you've been dealt.
First person that has like explained bipolar to me in a way that I understand, but what I see here is this life that you have that there's like, it's always trying to seek balance. But you've got the mania, and in order to counterbalance the mania, you've got the depression, and then you've got, and it just feels like it's like a teeter-totter, but it can't sit still. It just needs to go one way or the other, and it's crazy. It's crazy. We all know you're a little crazy anyway.
Mad Hatter. Mad Hatter.
Oh my god!
I don't get offended when people say crazy because it's just a natural.
People call me crazy all the time.
It's the art brain.
Yeah.
It's the art brain.
Yeah.
You know, we're quirky, we're off the hinges sometimes, and
we own it.
Yeah, and you have
the first
to.
person that says I'm crazy. I'm a little crazy.
You have to. It's bipolar again is not who I am. It is a part of me.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I had to really look into who I am as a person, my personality type, things that I enjoy when I am stable. And it's so important to create a stability plan, if you will. So when you're sober, you make a list of what can my partner do to help me through XYZ when I am depressed? What is something my partner can do to help me when I am manic? Or even if you're in either state, you update that little paper, your journal, so you can remember what that feels like. Because like I said, sometimes it feels like I do wake up and I'm just back to normal, and it's like that never even happened. And it's not that I'm delusional, it's just it feels so much better that I'm just like, fuck it, whatever, that was yesterday and here's today, and let's just keep rolling with it.
I feel like this is something that no shit could be translated into relationships that don't. I mean, creating this plan is something that could be done even if you're not dealing with a mental health condition. I could say to my partner right now, you know, when I get anxious about the X, Y, and Z, or when I seem to be depressed, or these are signs that I'm not feeling well.
Yep.
Just to have that conversation with them, and this is what I need from you in order to help me through that. Because even though, yes, bipolar is an extreme, but we all do have
emotions.
These, there's roller coasters. Not quite as
if every day was a perfect day, we would not be normal people. We'd be robots.
It would be so boring.
Yes.
Life would be really boring.
But I do think it's important communication-wise, especially with your emotions, again, of like you just said, with when you are in a good place to be able to jot those down and have that conversation And then if you, again, are in dealing with depression, like, man, what sounds good right now? You know what? Soup makes me feel really good. I'm going to add soup to that list.
Yeah.
Soup is just my healer. I'm putting soup on the list. Maybe they make you some soup or tea or pudding. I don't know. But
or chocolate brownies with chocolate icing and chocolate chips.
And chocolate ice cream. Yeah, all the things.
And then chocolate fudge.
And chocolate fudge. But yeah, I think it is very important to communicate those things, male or female, to feel comfortable with your partner to express what your needs are, because we do that anyways.
Yeah.
My needs are, please take out the trash on Sundays. But my emotional needs are, again, XYZ.
We don't have those conversations. I even like the idea of saying to your partner, this is not a relationship talk. This is not a relationship talk. Saying to your partner, these things make me happy, even if you're in a stable place.
Yes.
These are the things that make. How often do we say that to our partners? We just know in our head. So I love that. I'm excited about your journal, but I think that we can take, that was awesome conversation. Like, I am so glad we recorded that, because what I feel is that the universe brought you here today because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. I needed to educate myself on mental health because I have a lot of learning to do, and I have a feeling that if I post and share this video with our community, they're going to learn a lot too. You have a way of explaining what you're going through. Your therapist said you're living through it, but you're also like, you have a really firm understanding of exactly how you feel when you're aware. And I don't know that even I am aware of when I'm bummed. I can't, I'm just like, I don't know, I'm not aware. You're very aware of exactly. And also every time you talk to me, you're like, I'm in a manic state, or I'm in a depressed state. Like, like you're just like, this is it. And you wear it on your shirt. Maybe we should make it.
I'm manic today.
Psycho.
Actually, one of my favorite.
How can I help you?
One of my favorite things was, "Don't talk to me," or "The wind is blowing too hard today. Don't talk to me. I'm overstimulated," or something like that. I forget what it was, but it's like, "Don't talk to me. The wind has me overstimulated." But it's
hit
true.
Me the wrong way.
Yeah, it's true. Those just when you have sensory, because when you're manic you have heightened senses, so your sensory overload. I have to wear silicone earplugs sometimes because of the hearing sensitivities.
Wow.
But I am thankful for you for asking questions, because anything that you ask is just an open door to learning. And I'm not sure, how I would say most people who battle with mental illness, I would say to a degree, are, if they're comfortable, would answer your questions.
Well, you run the risk. For me, where I don't have this risk from you, is if you'll be offended. I don't want to ask. It's almost a touchy subject. You don't want to say, "Do you feel crazy? Do you feel a little crazy?"
Right.
Or poke fun and joke about it. But when I talk to you about it, and every time we've talked, I feel like I could say something very offensive, and you would be just like, "Yep, that's
pretty accurate."
It's like I don't want to like walk on eggshells and trigger something that might be a really terrible thing. But I also don't know what to ask.
That's a good thing to be aware of.
Yes,
you nailed that one.
Yeah.
As far as the awareness, literally, again, dealing with this, I'm thankful I was diagnosed when I was 19. I didn't have a normal life. I had adolescence. I had teenage years. And then here I am.
Yeah.
I wasn't 30 years old and diagnosed. I didn't have a pre-life. I didn't have anything before it. This is what I know.
Yeah.
And any mental illness, for your mental health, it is important to understand your mental illness. Just like you're going to become a doctor or a taxi driver. You're brand new, you gotta learn the streets. You gotta learn your avenues, you gotta learn your alleys.
You gotta learn how to drive.
Well, hopefully you know how to drive by then. But you have to become aware of what you're dealing with, and so you can process it and keep yourself as stable as possible. Like I said, this depressive episode snuck up on me. I didn't realize I was dealing with it, but once I became aware, I was like, okay, we got to nip this in the ass. Like, this is not feeling good at all. But my sister, number one in my tribe, always says, good job for being aware of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I missed it, man. Like, I had, 3 strikes. I missed it, man. And she's like, but you caught it. You have it now. You're aware of it. You're taking action. You're trying to find a solution. And that's the best thing, again, I think you can do. And honestly, without the book, the Take Charge of Bipolar that I've told you about, I wouldn't understand, because doctors don't explain. This is what mania is. This is what this is. It is, you have this diagnosis. We've monitored, we've watched. This is now your diagnosis. This is how we treat the
but there's that big area in the middle that's like, okay, this is what you have and this is how we treat it. Okay, what is the gray area in between diagnosis and treatment?
And
that's education, awareness, learning,
advocacy,
and connection.
Yes,
I'm sure with others and books and all the resources.
Yeah, it's very exhausting. And even when I came over the first day and I showed you the journal, you said, I think it was Alma actually, she said, I don't have bipolar and this is a lot. But it's a lot to maintain bipolar. Yeah. It's a lot. If we really focused on our routine as people in general, our routine and, making that bed, making the morning coffee, going to work, coming home, doing what you do after work seems mundane. It's an everyday thing. It's a recurrence. But with bipolar, I feel setting those boundaries, like I'll do good when I'm stable. I'm doing that thing. I'm doing that thing that the neighbor Smiths are doing, whatever. I'm on schedule. Then I'll go manic, and it's like I never even had a schedule. I'll just start driving down the alleys and hanging out and go wherever. It's like I never even had a schedule.
This reminds me, I read all the time, of a book that I read, kind of like you're setting your own boundaries. I read a book that said if you take your dog to a park, I'm not calling you a dog.
Woof.
If you take your leash, no leash, and you take your dog to a park, and there's no fence anywhere, and you just say go. I mean, obviously it depends on the dog, but the dog will likely stay right by your side. Maybe even sit up on the park bench with you. If you put up a fence, if you take your dog to a park with a fence put up and some type of boundaries, he'll run like crazy and have the time of his life. Because when you're within safe boundaries, you can freely express yourself, you be yourself, you can run like crazy because there's a barrier around you protecting you from going too far. And it sounds like what you're describing in this like mundane routine is your barrier. You've got a starting point and you've got an ending point. You need to get through the day. But as long as you got that beginning and the end, you're good to go in the middle. And that's what it reminds me of.
And routine and consistency is the core of maintaining stability with bipolar. And
that's your fence.
So again, when you are manic, there's no fence.
There's no fence. There's no boundaries. Crazy.
It's let's get shit done.
Oh my gosh, I love that conversation that we just had, and this was just a spontaneous chat meeting session.
Anytime.
Hey,
like
and
I
how
said,
do you like my
and check it out. Here we are.
She just came to see my space. I don't even know if it's still recording. Hopefully it is.
We're gonna find out.